Foscari di Venezia.
Diego, we are beside the excavation where you find a skeleton during this 2018 campaign. He was a young man, he was a young girl, perhaps one of the first inhabitants of Venice. What about him or her?
Yes, this year we were quite lucky because we start to find the rest, the actual bodies of the first inhabitants of Venice, of Torcello, of course. Here, exactly in that place where we are, we excavated last week a skeleton of a young girl, it seems, according the size and the shape of the limbs. And also the skeleton had a small brooch, a piece of jewelry that normally is associated with female way of dressing. We are speaking about the 8th century. 8th century, that is a pivotal time for describing how Venice did came to the world, how Venice started. What I mean is that these kind of finds that we have, like this skeleton and the houses, the warehouses that we will see in 2 seconds, tell us that these places were chosen between the 5th and the 7th century, like the new emplacement of the harbor of the Roman city of Alfino. So no war, no barbarian, no escape to the lagoon, but the transfer of infrastructure. Is the harbor that very slowly has been moved in a much more suitable location according to the modification of the river, the Sile River, that passed exactly there, a few meters from the excavation site. The houses were completely timber made. Only wood was the element that made the houses. But we can speak about houses, not huts. If we say huts, you imagine a first Venetian like a primitive one, dressed with some fur and speaking a weird language and so on. No, archaeology is telling us, also if it's quite difficult to understand it because of course timber is completely gone now in this phase, that these houses were very well structured. They had 2 stories, a ground floor, a first floor. Probably people live in the first floor, and the ground floor we have all the traces of fireplaces built just over the clay layer, and the clay functioned as a heating system, so the houses were quite comfortable. And another element that is quite impressive for us is that the main entrance was never from the land, was from the water. So
And this is Venice.
absolutely. So in somehow like the palaces in Venice now, or in the Renaissance, in the Middle Age, everything was built overlooking the water.
What was the diet of the girl you found there?
Yes, we can say something about that because the archaeologists, but also our colleague, the archaeobotanics, the archaeozoologists, and the other scientists that collaborate with us in helping to identify seeds or nuts or also the pollens that are hidden on the strata that we are excavating, tell us about the environment and the the remains of the diet of those people. So we know, for example, that they ate a lot of fish. That is pretty normal. We are in a lagoon type environment, but not only fish from the lagoon. So mussels like oysters or shells came from the lagoon, but also high sea fish. We have, for example, dolphin or turtles and so on. According the paleobotanic, we can say that they had a lot of fresh vegetables, all the cucumbers and all the fruits that we are collecting tell us that the variety of the vegetables was pretty high.
And you found also amphors. What did they contain?
Yeah, we have a lot of amphoras, of course, both in the warehouse on the settlement phase. And those amphoras contain mostly wine and oil, goods that were meant to be distributed on the mainland, but part of it were consumed here. So we can say that these people that were in somehow forced to work here, they had at least great access to good food.
Good restaurant.
Let's say like that. Here, Just at the end of this island we had the sea in the Roman time. This was the coastline, and that is the reason of the emplacement of the site. But also for understanding what happened after, why Torcello is deserted now. There is only this big church where we are standing.
15 people only.
Yeah, 15 people only. Where are all those people that in the past were fully were fully residing here? The reason again is not a war or something else, is the river. The river changed. The water passed a little bit southern, nearby Burano, and this place didn't fit anymore to be a harbor. And so the harbor area was displaced. After the harbor, also the artisanal production and also the people. And the island became an island of agriculture, but with a huge church, the Byzantine church, 11th century of Santa Maria Assunta, that remains as a proof of the quality of the life and also of the quantity of money that those people had to build something so decorated and so representing like the Church of Santa Maria Assunta.
Foscari.